Hi. I just want to talk a little bit today about Tamar. I've been doing a study on women who are in the lineage of Christ, and Tamar is one of the four women mentioned in Matthew chapter 1 as being a part of the genealogy that's listed there about Christ. Um, there are three Tamars in the Bible. One is Tamar, who was raped by her brother Amnon. The other is Tamar, who is the daughter of Absalom. This Tamar is the daughter-in-law of Judah. Now, Judah is one of the 12 sons of Jacob, and he is also one of the brothers of Joseph. So in Genesis chapter 37 is where Joseph has been thrown into the pit and then sold into slavery in Egypt. Judah is the brother that says, what are we going to gain from killing our brother Joseph? Let's sell him. So right after that whole story takes place in chapter 37, we get introduced to Tamar in chapter 38. Judah leaves his brothers and goes to live with a friend, and he marries a Canaanite woman. And they have three children together, Onan, and Shelah. Tamar is married to We find out that is a wicked man and is put to death by God. The Bible doesn't tell us what he did. We're just told that he was wicked and that he was put to death. So Onan is given to Tamar to be her husband. Well, we've heard Onan's story. He is the one who, each time he slept with Tamar, he allowed his seed to be spilled on the ground, which was wicked in the eyes of the Lord, and he was also put to death. At this point, Judah is concerned. He's lost two sons to this woman, and he tells her that she should go back and live with her father, and when Shelah is old enough, she can become his wife. That's a promise that Judah doesn't keep. He makes the promise, but it never happens. But Tamar's devoted. She's devoted to her father-in-law. She's devoted to her husband. She's devoted to that family line. And she's obedient. So she goes back to her father's house, and she waits. And she waits, and she waits, and she waits. And then she finds out that Judah's wife has died. After his time of grieving is over, he gets up and decides to go travel. When Tamar is told that he's going to be traveling, she has a decision to make, because she has realized by now that she is not being given to Shelah to be his wife. And she's determined to give birth to an heir of the tribe of Judah. She's determined to give birth to her own child, as is her right. Now, she's a childless widow. This puts her in the very bottom of society. She does not have the protection of a husband. She does not have the protection of a son. She has not been released to marry anybody else. The commentaries that I've read said that Judah had three choices. He could release her, he could give her to his son Shelah, or he could play the role of surrogate himself. He chose not to do any of those things. So this leaves Tamar in a position of just waiting. She's not allowed to go out and be with anybody else because she is bound to the family of Judah. So she's daring, very daring. She puts together a plan that risks death. She takes off her widow's clothes. She puts on a veil. And she goes to an area where she knows Judah is going to be passing by, and she waits for him. Now, she doesn't go there for money. She doesn't go there to get her own sexual desires gratified. She goes there for justice. She goes there to get what is rightfully hers. When he sees her, he thinks that she's a shrine prostitute. They negotiate a price. It's a goat, but he doesn't have the goat with him. So Tamar asks for three very important items: his seal, the cord that goes with it, and his staff. These are three important and expensive items, symbols of his identity and his authority. After everything is over, he gets up and goes on his way. She takes off the veil, puts back on her widow's clothes. He tries to pay her. He tries to send the payment, but there's no shrine prostitute to be found on that road. He's made the effort. He doesn't go any further than that, possibly because he doesn't want to risk being embarrassed. 3 months later, he hears that Tamar is pregnant. In one of the translations I read, the friend says she's been playing the harlot and she's pregnant because of her immorality. When Judah hears this, he's outraged. He demands that she be burned to death. That's the penalty. Tamar risks death. When they come for her, she pulls out those 3 items and says, I am pregnant by the one who owns these. When he sees this, he realizes that she is more righteous than he is. In fact, that's what he says. She is more righteous than I. He knows what he's done. He knows what he hasn't done. He knows that he has not fulfilled his obligation to her. So he calls her righteous. I've heard her called deceitful. I've heard her called desperate. Judah calls her righteous. I see her as being devoted, as being determined, as being decisive, as being daring. I've spent the last few weeks reading a lot of different commentaries and reading Genesis chapter 38 over and over and over again. What lessons do you see in this story? One of the things that I see is don't let fear stand in the way of God's plans for your life. Don't let your fear or somebody else's fear stand in the way. Don't let what somebody else might have to say about you. You know, Tamar risked people thinking she was a harlot, people accusing her of being immoral. She risked death to get what was rightfully hers. She risked death to be able to give an heir to the tribe of Judah. She risked death to fulfill God's plans. Now, she is later talked about in Ruth chapter 4, and it's in a positive light. She's part of a blessing that Ruth is being given when she marries Boaz. May your home be like that of Perez, who was given birth to by Tamar. And then she's mentioned again in Matthew chapter 1 in the lineage of Christ. What are you willing to risk to live up to the plan God has for you? What are you willing to do? What are you willing to let be said about you, to let be thought about you? What are you willing to do? Take some time. Read Tamar's story. Maybe you'll get something out of it that I didn't get. Take care.